One of the things about my experience that I think is very valuable and which has stood me in good stead over the years is that the first major elected office I ever held was a county commission seat. And part of the reason why that was valuable is because when you serve on a county commission, it's almost kind of like being on a mini state legislature, because your fellow county commissioners are not just people from your own community, they're people from other communities. So when I was a county commissioner, I was working on a daily basis, not only with the other commissioners from Detroit, but also with commissioners who represent Dearborn and Dearborn Heights, and Livonia, and the Grosse Pointes, and Harper Woods, and Inkster, or Ecorse, and River Rouge. So the value of that experience is that you get to understand these folks, and you also get to understand some of the issues in their respective communities. And by the same token, you know, you get to show them a little glimpse of who you are and the city that you represent. So that regional perspective has actually been useful for me. One of the things that we did when we were on the county, when I was on the county commission, is the former chair at that time, Ricardo Solomon, started something called the Tri-County Summit, which was an annual meeting of the Detroit City Council and the Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County Commissioners. And it was something that started back in the mid-1990s. It went on for a couple of years, and it fell by the wayside. When I became president of City Council, I decided that I wanted to resurrect that, because I think it's important that we talk across boundary lines and across county boundary lines. That doesn't mean you're always going to agree, but you got to at least be talking. You know, I'll never forget, and this may seem totally off the subject, but I remember a couple of years ago, Spike Lee came to town, and he did a speech out at the Henry Ford Museum. And he talked about how it is that certain movies get greenlit about African Americans that never should have been made. But a big part of the reason why these movies get made is because we ain't in the room. So he used, for example, anybody ever see that movie Soul Plane? Real bad movie, terrible, awful, very stereotypical. And he made that point. He was like, you know, if there had been a brother in that room, you know, that brother probably would have said, hold up, a plane with spinners on the landing gear and where they serve 40 ounces of fried chicken for in first class? No, you don't want to do that. And it's kind of the same dynamic, you know, when you're talking, when some regional leaders from other parts of this area are sitting in a room and certain stuff gets said about Detroit, if we're not there to say, no, that's not really the way it is, this is the way it really is, that's how a lot of these misperceptions and inaccuracies about the city of Detroit get perpetuated, because we ain't in the room. And that's one of the values of actually being there and meeting with these folks on a regular basis. So when I got re-elected to city council and became council president, I said, we're going to resurrect that. We're going to start doing these again. And we started doing that. And as a matter of fact, actually one of the last things that I did as council president before becoming mayor is we brought the Tri-County Summit back to the city of Detroit, and we hosted it at the Detroit Institute of Arts. And even though I'm mayor now, I'm going to continue to reach out to these folks. I have to do it on a different level because now as mayor, I'm technically part of the Big Four, which is what you often hear the mayor of Detroit, along with the Oakland and Wayne County executives and the Macomb County Commission chair, referred to. And I try to deal with these guys. We're not always going to agree, but you got to at least talk. And I think where there are opportunities for us to collaborate, such as the Cobo Hall expansion, which I think is a prime opportunity for us to finally do something with that facility. And I'm hoping that the majority of the Detroit City Council members will see the wisdom of that and back away from opposition on it. That's a perfect opportunity for us to really make something great happen, not only for Detroit, but also for the region.
And how would they go about finding that?
There's actually 2 studio projects that are in the pipeline that are actually homegrown. I mean, they're from folks right here in the city of Detroit or the Detroit area that are trying to develop studios here in the city of Detroit. Now, in terms of, is there special funding available? No, but we do have certain programs that we make available to anybody that wants to come in and start a business, and those would be available to those projects as well, such as our microloan program. That's typically more oriented towards small businesses, but we also have things such as, and these are going to be critical, I think, for development of movie studios, tax abatements, And also we have something called an Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Authority, or OPRA. And what that is that's when you take a building that is functionally obsolete for its original intended purpose and you do something different with it. And it's a tax incentive that allows you to basically help to finance renovating it and rehabilitating it so it can be something else. To give you an example, and this is actually a real life example, there's a loft project near Wayne State University, I think, called University Lofts. Very nice. That was actually originally was a warehouse, and an industrial warehouse, and the guys that came in that bought it, they were looking for a way to make the financing of converting it into lofts more feasible. So they applied for that and they got it, and now they've been able to convert it into lofts. We can use those sorts of vehicles also for taking buildings that we want to redevelop into movie studios. And that's one of the things I think is going to be key, because when somebody wants to come in and do a studio, basically what they're looking for is a big building with a high ceiling that you can blow up stuff in or build a spaceship in or whatever. And we have funding vehicles in place that allow for that to be done.